Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's discussion where we are going to be diving into some of the basic information for visas and applying to residency. And with us here today, we have Daniela and Cynthia, who are ambassadors with Match a Resident. So it's a pleasure to be here with both of you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, if you don't mind, can you give yourselves just a little bit of an introduction and tell us a little bit more about, who you are and why this topic is relevant to you? Can start with Cynthia.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cynthia. I've just matched into anesthesiology in New Jersey. I am a green card holder. I just applied for it in 2018 and it came in 2020. So this topic is quite important to me and relevant to me because I'm not a US citizen. And when I applied, I was looking at all the visa options and what my best option was, and ended up going down the green card route.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniela. I'm an international medical graduate from Colombia. I'm also not a US citizen. I recently matched internal medicine at BIDMC in Boston. And as well as Cynthia, once I matched, I had to decide which visa path I was going to go. And I chose the H-1B.
Great. And so, Cynthia, can you tell us a little bit more about the green card and what that really meant for you in terms of, making that decision or having those options?
Sure. So when I first decided that I was going to apply for residency in the US, I was looking at my visa options and I found out that there were two visa options and the green card. So that's the H-1B, the J-1, and the green card. H-1B was pretty difficult to get, especially in anesthesia programs. So it kind of just left me between the J-1 or if I could apply for a green card, that was the route I had to go down. So with the J-1, I was trying to avoid that because there were a lot of clauses to it, like having to apply for a waiver or going back to your home country for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, being married to an American meant that I would have to go back home to Australia for 2 years and leave, my husband and possibly future kids behind. And that just wasn't really feasible for me. So I delayed my application for residency for it was a year and a half, and applied for my green card. So that process was pretty lengthy. It took a total of 18 months.
Wow.
So there are a few options. So if you have family in the US, like direct family, you can apply for a green card. If you have a spouse in the US, you can apply for a green card. Or if you have a fiance, you can apply for a K-1 visa, then eventually transfer over to a green card. It's quite a costly process as well, but obviously if you can get that green card, you're in it for the long run and you don't have to go back like the J-1 would have expected you to or do a waiver.
Mm-hmm. So would you recommend that people start 2 years ahead if they're going for the green card route, or what's the timing and general
Sure.
fee structure for that sort of process?
So what I was told is that 13 months is usually the average turnaround time, but because of COVID, obviously everything got delayed. So if you know that you are going to come to the US because of, a direct family member or a spouse or a fiance, apply as early as you can because that gives you time to apply for it and get everything in order. The fee structure for that, I would say to expect to spend up to $5,000 because you have to apply for, your first, like what do they call it? Kind of like an application to apply for a green card. And then after that, you apply for the green card. And there's quite a lot of fees. And then you have an interview process at the end of that as well. And if you do have family members and spouses or fiancés, then you would have to kind of show proof that you're coming here not as a fraud, but
Right.
actually having, things like flights or emails and pictures, which I had to supply to my interviewer.
Yeah, so
So
you
yeah,
had an actual
definitely.
interview with people, like you had to go in person and they interviewed you for that process as well.
Yes. So I had to go to the US Embassy in England because I was living in England at the time. And then went through an interview process, brought whatever evidence I could bring to show them that I was coming to the US and applying for a green card for an actual reason.
Hmm. Great. And then can you tell us a little bit more about the H1? Daniela?
Yeah, of course. So basically, when you choose to go like for like the visa path, which is like the more traditional thing most IMGs like do, you
Hmm.
get the option. You have the J1, which is basically like a student visa, like an exchange student visa, or you get the option of an H-1B, which is like a special occupation, like work visa.
Yeah.
So the big difference between them, and like one of the most important things between them, is like, does your hospital sponsor H1 or not? Because if your hospital sponsors an H1, you can get an H1. But if it doesn't, there's like no other like way you can get an H1. J visas are usually sponsored by the ECFMG.
Right.
So sometimes it's easier for some programs to just like go with only J1 visas for their international medical graduates. I was lucky because my program sponsors H-1B visas. And so once I matched, I asked if there was the possibility to get an H-1B visa. They said yes. Sometimes this is tricky with like the different programs because the hospital sponsors them, they have to pay for everything. So
Right.
it's like they deal with the lawyers, they deal with all the fees, they deal with like the premium processing fee that you need to get it. And so basically, because it's a special occupation work visa, what you do is you work with the hospital's lawyers to get like all of the immigration paperwork like into like a case file. But it usually delays because you need your medical license from the state you matched in
Hmm.
to like actually apply for the H-1B visa, because they have to kind of verify that you can actually like work
Right.
as a doctor in that state first. So for me, this was it's still a problem
Yeah.
because I'm still kind of waiting for it to kind of be approved, because my medical license, like it got accepted just last week. So that's like the trouble with the H1, that it usually gets delayed, and sometimes you start residency a little bit late. But for me, it was beneficial because for J1 visas, you need, like, once you're done with all your training and fellowship, if you want to do fellowship, you have to kind of go back to your home country and work there for 2 years, or you have to waiver. And the waiver process, it's a very long and hard process. Like, a lot of people waiver because they just, for whatever reason, don't want to go back to their home countries. But it's a very long process, and it means that you have to work at a specific region in the US and at a specific hospital for a very prolonged period of time. I think it's 3 years or 2 years or 3 years. And so I didn't want to like go through that process. I wanted to, like, once I was done with fellowship and residency, I wanted to kind of have all my options open. And with an H-1B visa, you can actually apply for a green card like right away as well. So I wanted those options. The kind of the con of the H-1B visa is, well, one, it's not like your choice. It's like if your program offers it to you, or like you can, if you can get it from the program. And the other problem it has, it's that only a few programs offer it. So for fellowship, for example, if you are on an H-1B visa for residency and then you want to like transition to fellowship, you have to kind of only apply to the places that offer H-1B visas.
Hmm.
And this limits your options a little bit.
So did you know that your program sponsored the H-1B when you applied? Or, did they accept the J-1 and sponsor the H-1 and you were just kind of hoping that one of those would work out for you?
Yeah, so I knew my program sponsored the H-1 visa because like I talked to like another IMG that like studied there for like before I matched there, and he got an H-1B visa, so I knew they sponsored it, and I knew like it was feasible. Um, but yeah, it also sponsors J1. Basically, it gives you the opportunity to go whatever route you want, which was really nice. Like when I was like in the interview process, I noticed that most like big like academic programs do sponsor the H-1B visa, like for internal medicine at least. And they do like when you read like the description of the program, like they say like we sponsor H1 or we don't sponsor H1. So it's very clear from the beginning like who sponsors it and who doesn't.
Perfect. And then, so you mentioned that you can apply for a green card directly from the H-1B. Is that something you plan on doing?
Yeah, like the process is still something that I'm not quite sure how like the green card process works, but I know you can actually like transition from an H1 to a green card directly without kind of doing anything else. So as soon as I get my H1, I will like consult with lawyers basically how the process works, because it's a little bit tricky as well.
Yeah. And then, Cynthia, you mentioned that there's a process for getting your social security number as well. Is that true?
Yes. So
Tell us a bit about that.
so I think in general, to get a social security number, even before COVID, takes up to 4 months, so 120 days. So because of COVID, obviously everything was delayed for me last year to get my social security number. And I think it took 9 months before I eventually got my number. But for anyone who's applying, and if you do need your social security number quite quickly, so what I did was I wrote to my local councilman's office and told them that I was a physician starting training, and they helped me get an appointment, and I got an appointment I think within 2 days to get my social security number. So they can help you expedite that if you can show them that you are starting residency training, which I think is a good tip to have, and it's very helpful for everyone coming into residency.
Yeah, definitely. Can you clarify, you said councilman, like in terms of your like local government,
Yes, so I just
like city council?
yeah, so I just Googled for my local Congress, like the local Congress office, and like just looked and see who was the person in charge. And I sent an email to their office. Most of the offices have an immigration, like a department where they can help you with things like this. And I emailed the office, and the lady reached out to me within 2 days to say that they could help me with getting my social security number.
Great. Yeah.
I also just wanted to add something on, sorry, to the J1 visa waiver earlier that Danny was saying. So I think with getting a waiver as well, there are very limited slots a year. If I'm not mistaken, they only have a certain number of slots a year, and most of them go towards primary care and mental health physicians. So not every specialty would be qualified for a J1 waiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. So to summarize a little bit, the J1 is sponsored by the ECFMG, and then H-1Bs are sponsored by hospitals. And you need to make sure that the program that you're applying to either sponsors the H-1B or accepts the J-1, which is sponsored by the ECFMG, or of course, if you're a green card holder, that's not going to be so much of an issue. And something that we see a lot on residency program websites, for example, is that they say they don't sponsor visas. And an issue with that is they actually do accept the J1 visa sometimes. So that's why it can be really confusing as to, not sponsoring a visa, but accepting the J1. So that information is found in customized lists with Match Resident to make things very easy and simple. And I know that you both have residency starting up in just a few weeks here. So to wrap up the conversation, I just wanted to hear maybe what you're both looking forward to the most about getting going.
Yeah, I think for me, it's getting my visa and getting to the
Perfect.
because as I said, it's a very like long process for the H1. So I'm still here in Colombia while it kind of processes, I guess.
Yeah.
but I'm very excited. I already got my schedule, and I've talked with the other like residents and like second years, and yeah, hopefully it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, well, we'll put our best out there for it to all line up.
So for me, I got my schedule yesterday, which is kind of exciting. I start on ICU, which is, I guess, scary.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm going to be thrown into the deep end and trying to swim my way out.
yeah,
Um, but I'm just excited to get started. I think especially because I've had such a big gap of waiting with this whole visa application that took nearly 2 years. You know, I haven't really been in a clinical setting in a while, so I'm just excited to get back into doing things. But yeah, also getting to know other residents and people and start this whole residency training.
yeah, amazing. Well, we wish you both all the best, and we'll definitely have to check back in with you in a couple weeks or couple months and see how things are going so that you can, share it with the community again. But thank you both so much for being here and sharing your experience and your knowledge about visas. I know this is a huge question that everybody faces, especially those seeking visas every year. So I definitely hope that people find this video very helpful. And thanks again for being here with us.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
thank you.